The crack of a gunshot pierced the Montana dawn, sending a flock of ravens scattering across the sky as Samuel Everett crouched behind a weathered oak, his breath forming small clouds in the crisp autumn air of 1876. His fingers, calloused from years of hard labor, closed around the handle of his Colt revolver as he peered across the misty field toward the abandoned barn where 3 outlaws had taken refuge. They'd stolen 2 days' worth of gold from South Pass City's bank, and as the newly appointed deputy sheriff, Sam wouldn't let them escape into the mountains. "Last chance, Decker," he shouted, his voice carrying across the field. "Come out peacefully and face justice in town." The only answer was another bullet splintering bark inches from his head. Sam had never planned on being a lawman. 6 years ago, he'd been just another cowhand driving cattle north from Texas, dreaming of saving enough to buy his own plot of land. But fate had other plans when a gang raid left him the sole survivor of his outfit. The local sheriff had deputized him to help track the killers, and Sam discovered he had a talent for bringing outlaws to justice. It was a lonely life, but it was his. The sound of hoofbeats drew his attention. A rider approached from the direction of town, the sheriff, no doubt, responding to the gunfire. Sam kept his eyes fixed on the barn as he waved a warning to stay back, but it wasn't Sheriff Mills who rode up beside him. Instead, a woman dismounted with practiced ease, her dark hair escaping from beneath a practical hat. She wore riding clothes that had seen better days, and a Spencer carbine was clutched confidently in her hands. "Miss, you need to get back," Sam hissed, motioning for her to retreat. "There are 3 armed men in that barn." "I'm aware, Deputy," she replied, her voice steady. "I followed their tracks from town." She positioned herself behind a neighboring tree, checking her rifle with the expertise of someone who'd used it before. "Willow Abernathy. I own the mercantile in South Pass City. Those men robbed more than the bank they took my father's pocket watch. It's all I have left of him." Sam opened his mouth to order her back to town, but another shot from the barn forced him to duck. "This isn't a place for a woman." She finished his sentence, her green eyes flashing with determination. "I grew up hunting with my father in these mountains. I can outshoot most men in the territory." Before Sam could argue further, movement at the barn door caught his attention. One of the outlaws made a dash for the horses tethered at the side. Without hesitation, Willow aimed and fired. The shot kicked up dirt at the outlaw's feet, causing him to stumble and retreat back inside. "I wasn't aiming to kill," she explained, sliding another round into her rifle. "Just letting them know they're surrounded." Sam gave her an appraising look. "That was some shot." "Told you," she replied with a hint of a smile that transformed her face, revealing dimples that softened her determined expression. For the next hour, they maintained their position, exchanging occasional fire with the outlaws. Sam found himself impressed by Willow's composure under pressure. Most women he'd known would have fainted at the first gunshot, but she remained steady, her breathing calm as she reloaded. "Why'd you really come out here?" Sam asked during a lull in the shooting. "A pocket watch seems like a flimsy reason to risk your life." Willow's expression hardened. "Those men threatened my 8-year-old daughter, Hannah, when they robbed the store. Said they'd remember her face if I raised the alarm." "No one threatens my child," Sam nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. "You're raising her alone. Her father died of fever when she was 2. We've managed." She checked her ammunition. "What about you, Deputy? Family waiting somewhere?" "No, madam. Just me and the badge." A shout from the barn interrupted their conversation. "We're coming out. Don't shoot." Sam and Willow exchanged glances, both raising their weapons as the barn door slowly opened. 3 men emerged with their hands raised, the fight gone from them. "Smart decision," Sam called, stepping out from behind the tree. "On your knees, hands behind your heads." As he approached cautiously, Willow covered him, her rifle trained on the outlaws. The morning had warmed, sunlight now streaming through the trees, illuminating the surrender. Sam efficiently bound the men's wrists with rope from his saddlebag. As he searched them, he pulled a gold pocket watch from the leader's vest. "This what you're looking for?" he asked, holding it up to Willow. She lowered her rifle, relief softening her features. "Yes, thank you." Sam handed her the watch before securing the prisoners to their horses for the ride back to town. When the last knot was tied, he turned to find Willow watching him, the morning light catching the auburn highlights in her dark hair. "You handled yourself well out there, Miss Abernathy." "Willow, please, and thank you for not sending me away. Most men would have." "I'm not most men," Sam replied, tipping his hat. "And clearly, you're not most women." The ride back to South Pass City was uneventful, the outlaws subdued by their defeat. Sam learned that Willow had taken over her father's mercantile after his death 3 years ago, expanding it to include a small lending library where children could borrow books, a rarity in frontier towns. "Hannah loves to read," Willow explained. "Books take her places we may never see." As they approached the town's outskirts, Sam found himself reluctant for their journey to end. There was something refreshing about Willow's directness, her competence, her lack of the coy behavior he'd seen in other women seeking a husband. "I'd like to meet your daughter sometime," he said as they reached the main street. "Any child raised by you must be something special." A genuine smile lit Willow's face. "Come by the store tomorrow. Hannah helps me after school." The following day, after delivering the outlaws to the circuit judge, Sam found himself standing outside Abernathy's mercantile, suddenly nervous. He removed his hat and smoothed down his hair before entering, the bell above the door announcing his arrival. The store was well organized, shelves stocked with necessities for frontier living. A small girl sat behind the counter, her dark hair in braids, intently focused on a book. She looked up as he entered, revealing eyes the same shade of green as her mother's. "You must be the deputy who helped Mama get Grandpa's watch back," she said with the directness of childhood. "I'm Hannah." "Pleased to meet you, Miss Hannah. I'm Samuel Everett, your mother around. She's in the storeroom." "Mama," Hannah called, "the deputy's here." Willow appeared from the back room, wiping dust from her hands onto her apron. Seeing Sam, a slight blush colored her cheeks. "Deputy Everett, I wasn't sure you'd come." "Said I would, didn't I?" He shifted his weight, suddenly aware of how long it had been since he'd made social calls. "And please, it's Sam." Over the following weeks, Sam found reasons to visit the mercantile. Sometimes he needed supplies, other times he just wanted to see Willow's smile or hear Hannah's cheerful chatter. The girl was bright and curious, asking him endless questions about his adventures as a cowboy and lawman. One evening in late October, Sam escorted Willow and Hannah home after they stayed late at the store taking inventory. The night air had a bite to it, promising snow before long. "Winter comes early in the mountains," Willow said, pulling her shawl tighter. "The pass will close soon." "Will there be enough supplies for everyone?" Sam asked, aware of how isolated the town could become. "We should be fine. The last supply train brought extra flour and salt pork." Willow glanced at her daughter, who skipped ahead, humming to herself. "Hannah, don't get too far ahead." The girl slowed, but continued her melody, a sweet, simple tune that sounded vaguely familiar to Sam. "That's a pretty song," he commented. "It was her father's favorite," Willow explained softly. "He used to sing it to her before bed. Sometimes it's all I have to remember him by the way she hums it." Sam nodded, understanding loss. Music has a way of keeping memories alive. They reached Willow's small house on the edge of town, light spilling from the windows where she'd left a lamp burning. Sam helped Hannah up the steps, then turned to say good night to Willow. Their eyes met in the lamplight, and for a moment, neither spoke. Sam felt an unexpected urge to lean forward to close the distance between them. Instead, he cleared his throat. "Good night, Willow, Hannah. Sleep well." As winter settled over South Pass City, Sam found himself spending more evenings at Willow's home. Sometimes they played checkers with Hannah. Other nights, after the child was asleep, they sat by the fire talking long into the night. Willow told him about growing up in St. Louis, the daughter of a shopkeeper who'd moved west after her mother died, seeking opportunity in the gold fields. Sam shared stories of Texas, of driving cattle across rivers swollen with spring rain, of sleeping under stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. "Why'd you stay on as deputy?" she asked one night as snow fell softly outside. "You could have kept moving, found your own land like you wanted." Sam stared into the fire, considering. "After tracking down those killers, I realized I had a knack for it, and there aren't many men willing to stand between good folks and those who'd prey on them." He smiled ruefully. "Besides, I never was much good at planning for the future." "Maybe you just needed something worth planning for," Willow suggested, her eyes reflecting the firelight. As December brought the Christmas season, the town organized a social at the schoolhouse. Tables groaned with food contributed by every household. Pine boughs decorated the walls, and someone had brought a fiddle. Sam stood against the wall, watching Hannah dance with other children while Willow chatted with the schoolteacher. She wore a blue dress he hadn't seen before, her hair arranged more elaborately than usual, and Sam couldn't take his eyes off her. "You know, Deputy, if you stare any harder at the Widow Abernathy, you might set her dress on fire," Sheriff Mills commented, appearing beside him with 2 cups of punch. Sam accepted the offered drink, embarrassment heating his face. "Just making sure everything stays orderly." "Sure you are." The sheriff chuckled. "Half the town's taking bets on when you'll finally get around to courting her properly." "That right." Sam took a sip of punch to hide his discomfort. "She's a good woman. Been turning down suitors since she came to town, but the way she looks at you." The sheriff shook his head. "Don't wait too long, son. Life's short on the frontier." Later, when the fiddle player struck up a waltz, Sam found himself crossing the room to where Willow stood. "Would you care to dance, Miss Abernathy?" he asked formally, extending his hand. Surprise and pleasure flickered across her face. "I'd be delighted, Deputy." Her hand felt small in his as he led her to the center of the room. It had been years since Sam had danced, but his body remembered the steps. Willow moved gracefully in his arms, the scent of lavender water rising from her skin. "I didn't know you could dance," she said, looking up at him with a smile. "There's a lot you don't know about me yet," he replied, surprised by his own boldness. The warmth in her eyes told him she wanted to learn more. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. Sam had been invited to share the holiday with Willow and Hannah, and he arrived at their door bearing carefully wrapped gifts, a book of poetry for Willow, and a wooden horse he'd carved himself for Hannah. The small house was warm and fragrant with the smell of baking. A tiny pine tree stood in the corner, decorated with paper stars and strings of dried berries. Hannah greeted him with excitement, pulling him inside to show him the cookies she'd helped make. Willow watched from the kitchen doorway, flour dusting her apron, happiness evident in her smile. The day passed in a haze of contentment unlike anything Sam had known before. They ate roast chicken and potatoes, played games, and sang carols. As evening approached, Hannah curled up on the rug with her new horse, inventing adventures for it while the adults sat nearby. "I have something for you," Willow said quietly, handing Sam a small package wrapped in brown paper. Inside, he found a fine leather holster for his revolver, the leather tooled with an intricate design. "I ordered it from Denver months ago," she explained. "The stage brought it just in time." "It's perfect," he said, genuinely touched. "But I can't accept something so expensive." "Yes, you can," she insisted. "You've done so much for us, for this town. Please." Their fingers brushed as he took the gift, and neither pulled away. Sam found himself leaning closer, drawn by something he couldn't name. Hannah's voice broke the moment. "Mama, can I have more cookies?" Willow reluctantly withdrew her hand, turning to her daughter. "Just one more. It's almost bedtime." Later, after Hannah was tucked in, Sam prepared to leave. At the door, he paused, gathering courage. "Willow, I was wondering if you might consider. That is, would you allow me to court you properly? I know I'm just a deputy and you deserve—" She stopped him with a finger to his lips. "Yes, Samuel Everett, I would very much like that." The kiss that followed was gentle, a promise of things to come. Winter gradually gave way to spring. The snow melted, revealing mud and the first tentative green shoots. Sam found himself whistling as he made his rounds, nodding to townspeople who smiled knowingly at his improved mood. His courtship of Willow proceeded with careful respect for propriety. They took Sunday walks after church, Hannah skipping between them. He escorted them to community events and occasionally joined them for supper. Always, he was conscious of setting a good example for Hannah, who watched their developing relationship with bright, curious eyes. One rainy afternoon in April, Sam entered the mercantile to find Willow alone, working on the ledgers. "Hannah at school?" he asked, removing his wet hat. "Yes, though she'll be home soon." Willow set aside her pencil. "What brings you by in this weather?" Heard the supply wagon made it through the pass. "Wanted to make sure everything arrived safely." "It did, first delivery since November," she smiled. "Including a letter from my cousin in Denver. She's getting married this summer." Sam leaned against the counter. "That's so? Anyone we know?" "No, he's a banker she met at church." Willow hesitated, then added, "She's invited us to the wedding, all of us." The implication hung in the air between them. "That would be quite a journey," Sam said carefully. "Almost 3 weeks there and back." "Yes, it would." Her eyes met his, a question in them. The bell above the door jangled as Hannah burst in, bringing with her the smell of rain and excitement. "Mama, Deputy Sam. Miss Turner says I have the best handwriting in class, and I should read my composition to everyone tomorrow." Conversation shifted to Hannah's achievements, but the unspoken question remained in Sam's mind throughout the evening. That night, alone in his room above the jail, he made a decision. The next morning, he visited the town's only jewelry shop, emerging with a small package carefully tucked into his vest pocket. Then he went to see Hannah's teacher. 2 days later, Sam invited Willow for a walk after church. Hannah, unusually, declined to join them. "I promised to help Miss Turner arrange books in the schoolroom," she explained with a suspiciously innocent expression. Sam led Willow to the small town park, where spring flowers had begun to bloom along the pathways. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, Sam gathering his courage. Finally, beside a flowering crabapple tree, he stopped and took both her hands in his. "Willow, these past months have been the happiest of my life. I never thought I'd find someone who makes me feel the way you do, like I've finally found home." He reached into his pocket for the small box. "I'm not a wealthy man, and the life of a lawman's wife isn't easy, but if you do me the honor of becoming my wife, I promise to love and protect you and Hannah for as long as I live." Tears filled Willow's eyes as he opened the box, revealing a simple gold band set with a small sapphire. "Oh, Sam, yes, yes, of course I will." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, cheers erupted from behind a nearby bush. Hannah emerged, followed by several townspeople who had apparently been waiting for this moment. "Did you know about this?" Willow asked her daughter, laughing through her tears. Hannah nodded proudly. "Deputy Sam asked for my permission first. I said yes, but only if he promised to read me a story every night." Sam lifted the girl into his arms. "That's a promise I'm happy to keep, Miss Hannah." The wedding took place in early June before the journey to Denver. It was a simple ceremony in the town's small church, but it seemed all of South Pass City turned out to witness it. Sheriff Mills stood as Sam's best man, while Hannah proudly served as her mother's attendant. As they exchanged vows, Sam looked into Willow's eyes and knew with certainty that his wandering days were over. He had found where he belonged. The wedding supper was held in the schoolyard, tables set up under the trees. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the gathering, the fiddler struck up a tune for dancing. Sam led his new wife to the center of the cleared space, holding her close as they began to move. "Happy, Mrs. Everett," he murmured into her ear. "More than I ever thought possible," she replied, resting her head against his shoulder. From the edge of the dancing area, Hannah watched them, humming softly to herself. When the first dance ended, Sam beckoned her over. "May I have this dance, Miss Hannah?" he asked with exaggerated formality. Giggling, Hannah placed her small feet on top of his boots, and Sam waltzed her around the yard, her laughter rising into the evening air. Later that night, after the celebration ended and Hannah was asleep in her bed, Sam and Willow stood on the porch of what was now their home. Stars blazed overhead, bright pinpricks in the velvet darkness. "I have something for you," Willow said, disappearing inside briefly before returning with a small package. A wedding gift. Sam unwrapped it to find a framed photograph of the three of them, taken by a traveling photographer who'd passed through town the previous month. Hannah stood between them, all three smiling into the camera. "Our family," Willow said simply. Sam's throat tightened with emotion. "The most precious gift I could receive." The journey to Denver for the wedding was long but memorable, their first adventure as a family. They traveled by stagecoach, Hannah's face pressed to the window as she absorbed every new sight. The city itself was a wonder to her, buildings taller than any she'd seen, streets crowded with people and vehicles, shops filled with goods from the east. The wedding was a grand affair by frontier standards. Sam felt out of place in his borrowed suit, until he caught Willow looking at him with such love that his discomfort vanished. At the reception, Hannah charmed everyone with her manners and intelligent conversation. As the evening progressed, Sam found her sitting with an elderly gentleman who was showing her a pocket watch. "It plays music," Hannah was explaining. "Like my papa's did." Sam approached just as the man opened the watch, releasing a delicate melody, the same tune Hannah often hummed. "That song," Sam said, surprised. "Hannah, that's the one you sing." The elderly man smiled. "It's an old folk tune from England. My grandfather brought the watch over when he immigrated." Hannah nodded solemnly. "Papa's watch played it too. Mama gave it to him when they got married." Later, Sam asked Willow about it. "I never knew the pocket watch was a music box. William wound it every night for Hannah," Willow explained. "After he died, the mechanism broke. I've never had the heart to get it fixed. It reminds me too much of what we lost." Sam took her hand. "Maybe someday, when the memories aren't so painful, we could repair it for Hannah. Keep a piece of her father alive for her." Willow's eyes filled with gratitude. "You're a good man, Samuel Everett." Upon their return to South Pass City, life settled into a new routine. Sam moved his few possessions into Willow's house, which quickly began to feel like it had always been his home. Sheriff Mills teased him about his domesticated state, but there was approval in the older man's eyes. Sam started teaching Hannah to ride, borrowing a gentle mare from a neighboring ranch. The girl took to it naturally, her mother's fearlessness evident in the way she handled the horse. "She's got good instincts," Sam told Willow as they watched Hannah trotting in circles in the meadow behind their house. "Reminds me of you with that carbine." Willow leaned against him. "I pray she never has to use a rifle the way I did." "Times are changing," Sam agreed. The railroad's pushing west, more families settling, laws taking hold. By the time she's grown, the wild days might be just stories. In August, Willow confided that she was expecting a child. The news filled Sam with a mixture of joy and terror. Joy at the expanding family, terror at the responsibilities of fatherhood from the beginning. "What if I'm not good at it?" he confessed to Willow late one night. "I never knew my own father. He left when I was too young to remember." Willow took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "You're already good at it. Look at how you are with Hannah. Our child will be blessed to have you." Hannah was ecstatic at the news of a sibling. She took her role as big sister seriously, helping more around the house and store, insisting on reading every book about babies she could find. One evening in early autumn, Sam returned home to find the house quiet. He hung his hat on the peg by the door, removing his gun belt with a sigh of relief. The scent of beef stew drifted from the kitchen, and he followed it, expecting to find Willow at the stove. Instead, the kitchen was empty, though a pot bubbled on the stove. Puzzled, he checked the parlor, then headed toward the bedrooms. He paused outside Hannah's room, hearing voices. The door was ajar, and through the gap, he could see Hannah in bed, Willow seated beside her. His stepdaughter's eyes were closed, her face peaceful as Willow stroked her hair. And Willow was singing softly the same melody from the pocket watch, but with words Sam had never heard before. "Sleep, my child, the day is done, stars are shining, one by one. Dreams await on silver wings while mother's love around you clings." The simple lullaby transported Sam back to his own childhood, to fragmented memories of a woman's voice singing him to sleep. His mother, perhaps, before she too had left him to be raised by reluctant relatives. As the last notes faded, Hannah's eyes fluttered open. "Will you teach the baby that song too, Mama?" "Of course I will. Just like my mother taught me and I taught you." "Do you think Papa would mind if Sam was the baby's papa?" Hannah asked, her voice sleepy. Willow smiled gently. "I think your papa would be happy that you have someone who loves you as much as Sam does. He only wanted us to be happy." "I am happy," Hannah murmured, drifting back toward sleep. "We're a real family now." Sam leaned against the wall, emotion overwhelming him. He'd spent so many years alone, convinced he wasn't meant for family life. Yet here he was with a wife who loved him, a stepdaughter who had claimed his heart, and a child on the way. Somehow, when he wasn't looking, love had moved into his life and made itself at home. He must have made a sound, for Willow looked up and saw him. She smiled, placing a finger to her lips before rising carefully from Hannah's bedside. In the hallway, she came into his arms naturally, as if they'd been embracing for a lifetime instead of months. "How long were you standing there?" she asked, her voice low. "Long enough." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "That song, it's beautiful with the words. It's been in my family for generations." She looked up at him, something vulnerable in her expression. "Does it bother you that Hannah still connects it with William?" Sam shook his head. "No, he'll always be her father. I'm just grateful I get to be part of her life now and our new little ones from the beginning." Relief softened Willow's features. "You're a rare man, Samuel Everett. Just a man who knows how lucky he is." He kissed her forehead. "Now, let's see about that stew. I'm starving." Winter came again, but this time Sam faced it with a warm home and family surrounding him. Willow's pregnancy progressed smoothly, her belly growing round beneath her aprons. Hannah helped in the store more as Willow's energy waned, proudly telling customers that her mama needed to rest because the baby was making her tired. On a snowy night in early February 1877, Willow went into labor. The town's midwife came through the blizzard to attend her, sending Sam and Hannah to wait in the kitchen. Sam paced for hours, worry gnawing at him. Childbirth was dangerous. He'd seen too many small graves in the town cemetery. Hannah watched him with solemn eyes, eventually reaching for his hand. "Mama's strong," she said with the certainty of childhood, "and Mrs. Porter has delivered lots of babies." Sam squeezed her small fingers. "You're right. Your mama's the strongest woman I know." Just before dawn, a thin cry pierced the quiet house. Sam froze, his heart pounding until Mrs. Porter appeared in the doorway, her face weary but smiling. "Congratulations, Deputy, you have a healthy son." Relief washed through him like a river. "And Willow, tired but well. You can see them now." Sam lifted Hannah into his arms, and together they entered the bedroom where Willow lay propped against pillows, a small bundle in her arms. Her face was pale with exhaustion but radiant with joy. "Come meet your son," she said softly. Sam approached the bed with reverence, setting Hannah down beside her mother. Together they peered at the tiny red face nestled in blankets. "He's so small," Hannah whispered. "But strong," Willow assured her. "Feel how tightly he holds my finger." Sam reached out tentatively, running one finger over the downy dark hair on his son's head. The baby's eyes opened briefly dark blue, unfocused, then closed again. "What shall we name him?" Willow asked, looking up at Sam. They had discussed names but made no final decision. Now, looking at his son, Sam knew. "William," he said. "William Samuel Everett, to honor his past and his future." Tears filled Willow's eyes. "It's perfect." She shifted the baby. "Would you like to hold your son?" With trembling hands, Sam took the tiny bundle. The weight of his son in his arms anchored him to this moment, to this life he'd never imagined possible. "Hello, William," he murmured. "Welcome to our family." Hannah leaned against him, reaching out one finger to touch her brother's cheek. "Can I sing to him, Mama, the special song?" "Of course you can," Willow smiled. As Hannah's clear voice filled the room with the familiar melody, Sam looked at his wife over their children's heads. In her eyes, he saw the same wonder he felt, that somehow, against all odds, they had found each other and created this perfect moment. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing South Pass City in pristine white. But inside the Everett home, warmth reigned. The deputy, who had once believed himself destined for solitude, stood surrounded by love, listening to his daughter humming her song. Grateful for the day he'd realized love had already moved in.